Ever since we were kids, we were taught that being an egoist is bad, that a selfish person is someone who's unwilling to share, unwilling to compromise, and unwilling to understand. And perhaps it's true because kids who grow up selfish tend to get avoided by their peers. They grow antisocial, believing that they're right about most things, but then proceed to get rejected by their society. They get alienated and silenced, as to ensure no other children grow to be like them. Instead, we were taught to be selfless, to stretch our hand out to those in need, to sacrifice ourselves for the greater good, and if everyone just focuses on their role, if everyone detaches themselves from selfishness, then truly what a world there will be. Wealth, healthcare, and food distributed, poverty, disease, and famine eradicated from the face of the earth. Oh, truly what a world that will be. But we were taught that this is unachievable because there are egoists that slipped away. Devils who disguise themselves as saints too well for us to distinguish. The causes of wars, discrimination, corruption, and many more bad things in life. And the media supports it. Corrupt politicians, scammers, conmen, separatists, even racist Karens in Walmarts are all examples of selfish people who thought that they deserved more than the rest of us, and we condemned them for it. They're masters of selfishness, we say. But from the way I view it, it was their lack thereof that caused them to be so resentful like this. Then what can we do? To strive to be selfless, some might ask? And the answer is no. True selflessness is reserved only for the dead, the inanimate, they who give themselves to be used as tools with no complaints nor wants. They are the true selfless. But humans? Life? No. For them, selflessness means giving their life away to be tools with no complaints, no wants. And that is impossible. Life is selfish. They own, take, and cheat another. You've probably heard it all before. The giant rainforest trees stealing all the sunlight, letting small, young, and growing plants below them die, the mother bird who left early to get worms for her children to eat, sacrificing another life for her own benefit, and the humans that made towns so that more people could have shelter to live in, with houses made of wood from trees, clothes of leather and fur, and food from slaughterhouses. We lived with flora as our servant and fauna as our bitch. With the existence of carnivores, herbivores, omnivores, and autotrophs, we did not gain life from nothing, we stole them from something. And to have the audacity to claim that we have the power to achieve selflessness, you wanna know what true selflessness looks like? Then look in front of you, the device that you're watching this video from. That is true selflessness. A tool with no complaints nor wants, whose purpose is only to serve another, the inanimate, the true selfless. And life is not meant for that. Life is fundamentally selfish. But it doesn't have to be like that forever. It can be selfless. We can be selfless. By dying. By being inanimate. And every living being has this right. The right to die. For their bones to get crushed and turned to sand, compressed to stone, and served as walls and shelters. Their corpse to be one with the soil, fertilizing new life that might sprout up only because of it. The molecules that we so selfishly kept to ourselves to keep our form now spread it out to the world for other things to use. And perhaps one day one of them could get the chance to live again, to take turns for the dead to live and the living to die, to constantly be recomposed, the eternal ephemeral. And the selfless, they're content with this. But the selfish, they rebel. The smarter they are, the more they think they're not bounded by the rules of the game. To not be selfish? How can we prevent the baby from learning how to breathe? The notion of the question itself is contradictory. It's selfish to think that we can be truly selfless. To disregard the universe's order, it's an ancestral sin, one of the conditions for living. But most do not know this, and some still attempts to be one, to live as a true selfless, and they suffered. They do want to be truly selfless, but they don't want to be an inanimate, the true selfless, which creates a paradox, so they settle for imitation, helping out the homeless, give opportunities away to those who are in more need, which in return gave them recognition for it, either from other people or from themselves. And again, isn't that selfish? To want to be selfless? Well, I guess it depends on how we define what selfishness and selflessness is. According to our friend over here, Google, selfishness is the lack of consideration for other people, concerned chiefly with one's own personal profit or pleasure, and selflessness is the trait to be concerned more with the needs and wishes of others than with one's own, the unselfish. And honestly, the both of them sounds not healthy, and realistically, you don't want to lean on one side alone, for the healthiest option here is to have a balance between prioritizing your personal needs and the world's needs. So why do we still teach our children to stay away from one side and glorify the other? It's completely illogical. You know, this reminds me of the story of the man who's made of gold. He was a kind one, that one. I remember on certain occasions his conversation with strangers asking for help, and he would give himself unconditionally. I asked him once for why he does such things. All he did was smile and told me, because I can. He gave more than he took, and when he has nothing left to give, when all he has left is himself, he started giving that away too. He spreaded himself thin enough to be strapped on the hospital bed with his loved ones all around him exclaiming how much he was loved. I still remember the first time he was admitted to the hospital. Thousands came to visit, and when the next year came and he still hasn't left, mere hundreds this time. And when the next year came and he still hasn't left, he told me to count them with my fingers. And when the next year came and before he left, I think got one last visit. Now I couldn't see them, but I could tell from the halos hanging from the rack, because that year he died of cancer. And that man was my father, and I call him the man who's made of gold because in every memory that I have of him is a memory I treasure. And years after his death, I still get people coming up to me exclaiming how great he was. I didn't mind, for I agreed, but what I find strange was how they idolized him. They'd call him their savior. They were describing the impossible, the dead amongst the living. They were describing a true selfless. But I knew better. Rather than a savior, he was a dreamer. He dreamt of a world better than ours and refused to rest until he got it. Sito Timotumoto was his ideology, a world where man lives to educate others. He made his own standards and demanded the world to be the one who complies. And when the world told him that it was impossible, when the world tried to save him, when the world re-explained its rules, rather than submitting to it, he stood taller and said, "Watch me, motherfucker!" And he blossomed, brighter than any star in the sky, selflessly shining even on the darkest part of space there is. The man I knew was the farthest thing there is from what true selfless is. He was alive and he was aware of it. A selfish and a proud one at that. And at the end of his life, as he looked around his deathbed at the people he loves, I couldn't see an ounce of regret in his eyes for the things he'd done. He got what he wanted, and now he's going to leave the world better than when he first came. He was a master of selfishness, the first one I met. He took the world's needs and treated it as his own. Now imagine a world full of these masters, a world full of dreamers who wishes for the impossible. Imagine turning the word imagine into remember, like how we showered ourselves with praises of the past with, did you remember when we conquered the skies with planes? Did you remember when we conquered the seas with ships? Did you remember when we abolished slavery? Things that were previously thought of as impossible, made possible by our wish to grow. Now imagine thousands of years from now to make it a possibility for our children to say, did you remember when we cured all diseases? Did you remember when we conquered death, inventing immortality? Did you remember when we reached the edge of the universe? Things that are currently thought of as impossible, whose first step into the possible is by wanting it into existence. Selflessness will lead us nowhere. They'll wait for someone to tell them what to do. Give them 1,000,000 years and I'll be surprised if they can do more than Uncle Greg on a Saturday night. But for the selfish, look at what we've achieved already. It's not that we should teach our children to stray away from it. Instead, we should teach them how to use it wisely. For a gun could either be used to kill or to defend, our greatest enemy or our greatest defender. To teach them to be human, to be alive, to know good and bad, and to always pick good over bad. Selfishness is a privilege. It is the reason for why we are where we are now. In the same way we built for language, morals, and technology, I dream to see the day when we can rewrite the definition of the world itself. To no longer treat it as an enemy, but as the mentor whose credit is overly due. Selfishness as the ability and or main force that drove the living into betterment, the foundation for progress, the giver of wants, and the master of life.
Hi there everyone. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I wrote down some poetry for you. I don't know if you noticed in the Act 3 one for my dad. And I cannot express to you enough how proud I was at myself for creating that masterpiece. See, I wrote it down, right? Then I read it back, and then I was shocked. Honestly, I was shocked, and to the point that I showed it to all my friends and bragged about it. Like, oh my god, dude, look at how amazing I am at writing this crap. Yeah. I hope you like it. If you like it, do give it a like, and if you have anything to add, leave it down in the comment section. And obviously, if you want to see me do more stuff like this, press the subscribe button. I don't think I write down quite enough in the morality part in the last one for what we as selfish should actually do, but I'm thinking of writing down just another script for it. So yeah, I think that's what I have now. Thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Bye bye.